So I want to acknowledge what a horrible day this has been for our community.
3 people murdered in cold blood in Orange County. 2 others fighting for their lives this morning.
He's like screaming. He's like, shots fired. He's like, call the police.
Among those killed, a 9-year-old girl who will never know what life had in store for her, and a young journalist who had been preparing to marry the love of his life.
No one in our community, not a mother, not a 9-year-old, and certainly not news professionals, should become the victim of gun violence in our community.
That reporter identified as Spectrum 13's Dylan Lyons, also a UCF graduate, now being remembered by those who taught him.
My heart breaks for his family. He loved his mother dearly. Always wanted to make his mom so proud, so proud.
This morning, Good Day Orlando stands with our colleagues at Spectrum 13. And what a tough morning for all of us in the Central Florida journalism community. Our thoughts and prayers with Spectrum this morning as they deal with this tragedy that all of us are feeling. Reporter Dylan Lyons killed yesterday. His photographer, Jess Walden, he is in critical condition this morning. A little bit of good news. We have heard that Jesse is responsive to doctors, so that is good. But thank you so much for being here. A very somber day here on Fox 35 Good Day Orlando. I'm Amy Kaufman.
Amy, good morning. I'm Ronnie Elijah. It is a very difficult time for everyone in the community, but certainly in the news community as well. We're going to talk about this and all the different angles to this story. We have kind of the timeline of this as well.
I think why we're hurting so much is just that we know this could have been any one of our crews. And so our thoughts and prayers, of course, with Spectrum this morning, who loved Dylan so very much. And of course, our reporters out in the field, they all work very closely with these other reporters in the field. So this has really had a huge impact on that.
It is a tight community for sure. Let's check in with Amanda McKenzie. She's live outside the jail this morning where the suspect is currently being held.
We've got Randy Hildreth. She is outside Orlando Regional this morning where 2 victims are still fighting for their lives. But we start this morning with Fox 35's David Martin. He is right outside the sheriff's office. And David, you have been in Orlando for 25 years now. And of course, we have lived through some really horrific tragedies, including Pulse. This is just something that hits very close to home.
Yeah, as the sun comes up here, Amy, on the Orange County Sheriff's Office, this is one of those stories that has more questions than answers. And as we try to get to those answers today, it will certainly be a long day as we remember those in our field who, well, had a terrible day yesterday. My thoughts and prayers are with the family, of course, of the reporter, Dylan Lyons, and with Jesse Walden as well. Jesse is great news about the fact that he's responsive, Amy. And let's not forget the fact that many families and friends in Pine Hills, just 2 blocks away from the Orange County Sheriff's Office here, are also wrecked with just tragic response this morning, right? You had that at 11 o'clock yesterday, a body found in a house, a woman in her 20s. What happened? Well, that's the job of a reporter and a photographer, right? In this case, the Channel 13 news crew went out and stood outside the house to figure out the details of this senseless violence. And in so doing, 5 hours later, ambushed themselves by a shooter. The Sheriff's Department believes the shooter was the same. And of course, that shooter, then we're told, went into another house and randomly shot up them, a mother and a 9-year-old daughter, 9-year-old killed. So we have 3 people dead, 2 severely injured, and a 19-year-old behind bars who the Orange County Sheriff's Department believes is responsible for all 5. That is the recap of yesterday. Now begins the story of how, why, and recovery. We have reporters at the hospital, and we start now with Randy Hildreth, who is at the hospital. Thus, we also have Amanda McKenzie, who's with me as well. But Randy, I want to start with you. What do you have on the latest regarding the people who just stood in the line of violence yesterday?
As you mentioned, I just want to echo your sentiment. Standing at the hospital, wrapping my mind around what we are learning about what unfolded yesterday, it is certainly some great news to hear that Jesse is responsive to doctors. At last check, he was listed in critical condition. So we are hoping and praying along with his colleagues, his family, and friends, that this is just continued momentum forward in his recovery process. But that photojournalist, that cameraman, a part of that Spectrum News team, Jess Walden, he has been identified as the photographer involved in that incident yesterday. We do also know that Dylan Lyons is that reporter who was killed. This morning, I've been taking some time to look through what Spectrum News has posted about him, what his classmates, former classmates at UCF posted about him, and also listening to what his former professor has said about him, that he was very active in the classroom, was very close to his mother. Here's a little bit of what his professor, how his professor described him.
He was always front and center in every class, always engaged fully 100% in discussions, in debates we would have.
And in a statement from Spectrum 13 News' parent company, Charter Communications, representatives said, quote, "We are deeply saddened by the loss of our colleague and the other lives senselessly taken today. Our thoughts are with our employees, family, friends, and coworkers during this very difficult time. We remain hopeful that our other colleague who was injured makes a full recovery. This is a terrible tragedy for the Orlando community." And as you mentioned, David, he was both of them were in the community doing their coverage, or what we typically do, providing a recap and an update on the shooting that happened earlier that morning. And so this is very difficult for the news community to process, because they were just out doing their jobs. Our thoughts and prayers are with both of them and their families this morning. And then we're also working to find out how the mother of that 9-year-old is doing this morning. At the last update, she was listed in critical condition, but we're hoping that she is doing better this morning. I'll go ahead and send it back to you, David.
Yeah, Randy, you bring up a good point. Just doing the job. A lot of us come out to report on stories in broad daylight, right? You feel there's some sort of cloak of safety when you have the sun up. Not the case yesterday, and a lot of us will avoid covering news at night for that express reason, never thinking, though, that in the daylight this could happen. We have Amanda McKenzie standing by with us live as well here at the Orange County Sheriff's Department with more on the suspect's arrest and what went down starting at 11 o'clock in Pine Hills yesterday. Amanda, good morning to you.
Good morning, David. The suspect, a 19-year-old, is behind bars here at the Orange County Jail, scheduled to make his first appearance, and that's when we might actually hear anything he has to say to the judge about this triple shooting where 3 people were murdered. And the big question anyone would want to ask this person is why, and we may never know why, because something like this should have never happened. The sheriff tells us that he has a long history of criminal offenses to his record in his young age, including many related to gun violence. And Keith Moses is behind bars with detectives working to just figure out what his motive may have been in this case. Now, you can take a look at this photo that was given to us by the sheriff's office. It shows the suspect, Keith Moses, flanked by Orange County deputies wearing a white jumpsuit. It almost appears as though he was giving a smirk on his face. Moses is 19 years old, and even at that age, the sheriff says he has a lengthy criminal history of gun charges, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, and grand theft. Sheriff Mina says he was located and arrested not long after the second and third shootings. Deputies say he was still armed with a handgun, which they believe to be linked to all 3 deadly shootings.
A very good description was given out. Deputies located him in the exact same clothes that he was wearing during the shootings. And once they did detain him, homicide detectives who were familiar with him from the previous case said, yeah, that's our same guy from the earlier homicide.
Sheriff Mina says investigators are still working to figure out why he shot those 2 journalists and why he entered that home to shoot a mother and child. He says the suspect is not saying much at this time. Keith Moses is scheduled to go before a judge this afternoon for 3 murder charges. Live in Orlando, Amanda McKenzie, back to you, David.